Next startup, everybody. We're here with Jordan. Jordan is here from Responsiv. Responsiv is a legal and compliance automation platform for in-house legal and compliance teams. Helps customers understand evolving regulations and apply it to the regulatory posture by performing a gap analysis and suggesting necessary changes. Jordan, if there's anything I missed right there in that intro, please help me out.
Yeah, everyone can hear me? All right,
Yep, you're good.
great. So yeah, as you mentioned, we're a legal and compliance automation platform designed specifically for workflows common to in-house attorneys. We're not building a product for AM Law 200 firms. We're really designed for practical workflows common to in-house attorneys and compliance teams. And I'll actually share a bit more about the product in the context of the demo. So let me just pull up my screen.
Perfect.
Everyone should be able to see it. I see a few nods. Okay, great. So this is the first main page of Responsiv, and I just like to use it to orient to what the system can do. So the first thing that we do, we call deep research. So this is our version of legal research, and it's designed for practical in-house oriented questions. So help you understand a new regulation, help you understand an evolving regulatory posture if your business is changing, or if you have an everyday legal question with a specific fact pattern, we help you understand the regulatory and legal context of the law. Then we actually apply it to your business or your customers' businesses. So that's where the gap analysis comes in. So what gap analysis does is it says, great, there's been a regulatory change. Your business is entering a new market. And so we're going to run a gap analysis on your existing controls, policies, and procedures. And we let you know what is out of date. And then on the right-hand side, this is all about implementation. So you now understand the regulatory changes. You understand how they impact your business. Now we're going to create a new policy, a new control, draft a document that is based on top of those regulatory and legal commitments. So supporting the workflow of a legal and regulatory change from beginning to end, all in all, enables you to help effectively understand a complex legal or regulatory question quickly, reduce the burden of keeping your policies and controls up to date for regulated organizations, and helps you identify where there are issues so nothing falls through the cracks. Today's demo is going to be pretty quick, so I'm just going to walk through a few examples of each, and we'll start with a research workflow, and that'll be a good orientation to what the system covers. So I've just got a question here. And we work with a lot of different industries, often heavily regulated industries are our bread and butter. So let's just start with a question. Does our bank's acquisition of a foreign-based entity trigger specific reporting requirements under the Federal Reserve's Reg Y for foreign banking organizations? So the system goes through a 4-step analysis. The first thing that we do is we analyze the jurisdiction, which will pop up in a second. And so we say, is this a federal question? Is this state level? Is this European? Is this international? So we're identifying the jurisdiction. Then we identify a set of sources. And then last, we generate the answer, followed by a set of references. We'll give this one more second to pop up. And you can see on the right-hand side, we've got the jurisdiction that's been identified. The sources are all listed on the right-hand side. You've got the statutes, regs directly. Anytime we answer a question, you always can pull up the underlying statutes and regs directly. So we're not just saying, hey, here's an AI-generated answer. You can specifically read the underlying regulations and not just the specific section that's mentioned. You can go into the whole part and the adjacent portions of the Code of Federal Regulations or state level or international regulatory content. So you have not just the AI-generated answer, but all of the underlying primary content as well. We also are identifying regulatory content that's been published by regulators. And additionally, we have secondary analysis from large law firms around the world, which are providing practical advice. So the right-hand side is the source material directly. The left-hand side is the AI-generated answer, where we are specifically answering the question that is that you've asked. For every sentence, it's backed by a list of quotes from those sources on the right-hand side. So for every statement that we make, we are backing it up by a statute, by a regulation, by regulatory guidance. by an analysis from a large law firm that is providing practical advice. And so what we view as one of our differentiators is blending the artificial intelligence with a traditional process on the right-hand side where you're actually reading the underlying material and you have access to the full set of content that's available. So that's an example of a question that you can ask. We'll go through an example of a gap analysis now. So we're actually applying it to your business. Often when you're starting with a gap analysis, you'll start with research. So you'll say something like, what are the requirements of DORA with respect to incident response? So there's a big regulation in Europe that's rolling out that's going to impact a number of different teams. What a question like this does, it allows you to scope that impending regulation to a particular audience. And so in this case, we're going to do the analysis with respect to incident response. We're running through a very similar analysis, identifying a set of source material, identifying the jurisdiction, identifying the answer on the left-hand side. But now we actually have an existing incident. We have an existing incident response policy. And so I'm going to say, given the pending DORA regulation, is my what are the gaps in my incident response policy? And so now we're not just saying, tell me about DORA in this context. We're saying, for my organization, what needs to change? So, or for, in your case, your client's organization, what needs to change? And so we're just selecting our incident response policy, and we're going to run through that analysis. While this is running in the background, it takes about a minute. One important part of our system is I've been talking about our external library. We also plug into our customers and your potential clients existing regulatory and legal postures. So we have a plugins to OneDrive, OpenPages, ServiceNow, Archer, a lot of these GRC tools and systems of record, where we actually have a record of their controls, their policies, and how it maps to their business units and jurisdictions that they operate in. So what we do is we're blending our knowledge base with the customer representation of their regulatory posture to ultimately apply the research to your organization. So I'm just coming back to the gap analysis. Where was it? Sorry. And so now we have our gap analysis, which is specifically saying, okay, for this incident response policy, here are the individual gaps in your existing policy. Your policy says this, the regulatory requirements say this, and here's the action that you need to take. And so we're identifying a list of gaps in your posture or your client's posture, given these regulatory changes. And now that we've done all of that, the next step would be going through an implementation process where we actually propose a set of changes. I know I'm going through this really, really quickly. Typically, our demo takes a bit longer, so hopefully you're getting the gist of the key workflows.
I'm getting the gist, Jordan. This is really cool. This is really, really cool. Jordan, I'm going to cut you here. Sorry. I'm
Sure.
again, not physically cutting you. We have a bunch of questions. I just want to quickly see if we can get through some of them, if that works for you.
Yeah, please.
Let's do it. All right. So first question is, how do you access client data to determine gaps subject to regulatory and legal changes?
Yeah, so our system can be a system of record. So if you have your data sitting in a OneDrive, you can upload it to ours, or we have plugins to common repositories like a OneDrive, Google Drive, LogicGate, whatever those system of records might be. And we basically have nightly polls for content that is relevant to the analysis for our system. Cool. And this is an example of that.
This is awesome. So someone had asked about if the database includes crypto regulations.
Yeah, so we basically have the entire in the U.S. We have the entire code of federal regulations. We have the Federal Register, and so we've got a fairly broad set of direct regulations. Then we also plug into the major financial regulators.
Everybody, we have the poll on the side. Please answer the poll. And while that's going, I got two more. I've got maybe three more. For your corporate clients, when you intake their policies, how do you store them? Do you use them, and do you use them to learn and understand the client better?
So we have a universal database of our regulatory knowledge, which is applied to all customers. For customer uploaded content, we have a contractual commitment that we do not have access to that content, and we do not learn from the data that's been provided.
You just answered two questions at once. I think I got 1 or 2 more minutes on this. We've got a bunch of questions. Someone had more or less a general question about privacy and security for internal docs uploaded for analysis. Do you want to kind of give a quick thoughts on that?
So we have a whole set of security controls, which is a longer explanation. I would say the one feature that I would highlight is we have a de-identification process. So if you upload a file to our system, you have the ability to turn on de-identification, which strips out organization names, people names, email addresses, any identifiable information, because it's not necessary for our analysis, and before any LLM is used on that product, on that policy. But there's a whole set of other controls as well.
I figured as much. We don't have time for that. I have one last question for you. And does it also track proposed legislation or regulation, or is it just things that have been passed?
Yeah, so we get proposed content in 3 ways. So first of all, we have the Federal Register in the US, and so you're getting proposals there. We track regulatory bodies, what they publish on their website. And so that's both in the US and a whole set of international jurisdictions. And then additionally, we have secondary analysis from large law firms, and they're often commenting on the practical implications of potential regulations to come. So it's a lot of different places.
That was it. That was a great answer. Jordan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for showing us Responsiv. And I will probably write you offline because I have more questions. I think it's really cool.
All right, amazing. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jordan.
Perfect. We've got a second, maybe for more Wii bowling music.